Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the L.A.M.E Book Club podcast. My name is Melissa.
I'm Ellie.
And sorry, as I was saying that, looking into the camera, I feel like it looked like my eyes rolled back into my head. So I don't know if that happened or not, but if it did, I'm so sorry.
Are you possessed? Are
No,
you Valg now?
I am Valg. No, I think I...
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa. I think I just crossed my eyes. I didn't even roll them back, so I don't watch. If you're listening, don't come to watch.
I think I threw myself off so much without not saying hello, welcome back to... I said hello, everyone, and my body was just like, no. That's not what we say. My body actually rejected that. So, all right, well, welcome. If you're new
Welcome
here,
back.
this happens a lot. If you're not, this won't surprise you. But we are back today with another episode of Hot Goss and Unpopular Sauce, and we have some, I would say, a doozy today. I am honestly kind of conflicted on my thoughts even with it all.
We've got some juicy deets to report to our friends.
Well, let's take it back. None of this are no part of this is details or facts. These are just some ideas that have been bouncing around the internet in our noggins.
They're not juicy facts. They're just juicy deets.
Yeah.
But I do want to start this episode off with a quick speed round game. And so I am going to ask you, and you can ask me after. I'll text you the names. But I'm going to ask you this person or this person, and they're all of SJM characters. It could be anybody. And you, without thinking or reasoning or, well, this person has this. And no, none of that. Just off the top of your head, who?
All right.
Okay. Let me text you this before we get started, and here we go. You ready?
I feel like it's not, you're going to know the names already, so it's not going to be fair.
What do you mean I'm going to know that? Oh,
if
no.
I ask you.
I'll be unbiased. I've not had time to think about this at all. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1. Azriel or Cassian?
Cassian.
We're softballing here. Elain or Feyre?
Elain.
Okay. Elaine or Elide?
Elide. I love Elide.
Ooh. The 13 or Liaba?
The 13.
Ooh. Lysandra or Lydia?
Oh, Lydia.
Good one. Dorian or Rune?
Rune.
Nesta or Manon?
Nest. Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah. I know. That's why I threw this one in there for you specifically.
I'm still going to say Nesta, but that actually breaks my heart.
Good choice. Nehemia or Danica?
Ooh, Danica.
Fenris or Lucian?
Fenris. That's not even a question.
Okay. Adian or Ethan?
Adian, also not a question. And if Therian is one of these options,
nope,
I'm just telling you right now, it's already going to be the other person.
This is my very last one. And whilst this is a very these names are big, I think this one's really difficult. So good luck. Okay. Aelin or Reese?
I know.
3, 2, 1, pick.
Aelin.
Wow.
Okay, I have to explain my reasoning behind that one because this one's so hard because it's so different. I identify more with Aelin in the fact, simply just because she's female and a woman. So
yeah,
and if I were to pick Reese, it would be because not because I'm it's because I want to be with him, not because I it has nothing to do with the person. So I'm and if I pick him, I feel like I'm disowning women everywhere. I can't do that.
No. This is just a fun little game.
I'm just
this
telling
is
you
nothing
all the
behind
thoughts.
this, and I'm gonna say that I really want everyone to hear that this is just a fun little game because that Aelin's not gonna be my choice.
See,
all right.
You have thought about it. All right, I'm asking you.
Just that one. Okay. My eyes are closed. Ready, go.
Azriel or Cassian?
Cassian.
Aelin or Feyre?
Feyre.
Elaine or Elide?
Elaine, believe it or not.
Wow.
I know.
Okay, the 13, or I say Lahaba.
That's okay. The 13.
Lysandra or Lydia.
Lysandra.
Dorian or Rune.
Rune.
Okay, good. That was gonna hurt me personally if you picked. Nesta or Manon.
Manon.
Nehemia or Danica.
Danica.
Fenris or Lucian.
Lucian.
Adian or Ethan.
Ethan.
And then we know your last one. You pick Reese.
And Reese. Reese, baby.
I don't understand that one. I know Adian bothers you, but I don't understand how Ethan didn't bother you more. Personally.
I think I connected more to Ethan's character. He was just like kind of like a dumb boy, and I just thought he was funny. Adian was like making some big mistakes that I didn't like personally. And I could get over them at the end. He threw a naked woman out into this. Oh, this might be a good time to say this is a spoiler episode for all 15 books.
So true.
So if you haven't read every single one, this is not the episode for you, but please come back and join us for our Throne of Glass series. We release episodes every Wednesday. We're starting Queen of Shadows today. And but this episode's going to be for all the girlies who know SJM like the back of their hands. So proceed with caution.
Okay. I'm sorry, but I understand, like, I'm not saying Adian is perfect, or like, he definitely started to bother me at some point, like, towards the end of the series. Yeah. But I don't think Ethan made one correct move the entire series of Crescent City.
No, he didn't, but that's kind of like his quirky little thing.
No, it's not quirky. It was just like so a fun irritating. Little thing. Fun little thing. He killed someone. He literally...
It's like comical how much wrong he did, and was still so determined.
Funny. No, it was so frustrating. He had one job at the end to get them the antidote and fumbled all of them except for 2. Like, the boy couldn't do anything right. No,
he couldn't. And I think that's an endearing quality about him.
This is where we differ.
Yeah, I know. It's okay, though. I think he's just, like, dumb, but I like him. And Adian is dumb, and I don't like him. Also, I can tell you like 10 of Ethan's largest mistakes right now. I don't remember a lot about Adian because he just did not stand out much to me. Other than I think, wanted to date his cousin at one point, and that was weird.
Stop.
And I think we should all be thinking about that when we think of Adian.
No. We can joke about him wanting to date his cousin all day long. But if you're legitimately bringing that up as a fault against him, that's when we are going to actually talk about how that's so wrong and that wasn't the case.
Well, luckily today is not Adian's episode. Today is going to be our girl Elaine's episode. And we are coming to you with some hot garbage, but also something you could really like. I personally really like a lot of these theories, and that is actually why I chose Elaine over Elide today, because we've been working through so many of the theories, looking at what other people are saying, looking at SJM's quotes, putting it all together, like Charlie with the lines and the maps and just acting crazy. And I think that we've come up with some really good ideas as well. So let's share them.
I will, before we jump into, I also, if you've listened to any of our ACOTAR episodes, or just maybe even all of our episodes, first off, thank you, but also you'll know that both of us, myself in particular, are not Elaine fans. She has...
I'm turning.
That's where I'm going to. I was going to say, she has not done it for me. However... all of these series of her, like we talked about in one of our, was it our very first episode, like Hot Goss, before we even had the name episode, where we talked about like the idea of her even potentially ending up with Tamlin, and that being like the real Beauty and the Beast.
It might have been our first Hot Goss,
like starting with like all the possibilities now of where her character could go. I feel like I actually like her character more now, even though none of this has actually happened. Like, just talking about the possibility, and now realizing that her character, like, I'm gonna admit I was so wrong and too quick to judge before about, like, her character and the, like, everything she brought to the table.
That's
And I can
exactly how
admit
I
that.
feel.
I can
Yeah.
admit that I didn't see the full potential of it, but now talking about like all these potential ideas, I'm like, oh my gosh, she actually could be. If FJM fumbles this, I'm gonna be sad because
She has a lot of potential. Yeah.
I have
Well,
faith that she won't,
and
but her character has much more potential for me now.
I think whilst the apology is appreciated by all Elaine fans everywhere, almost unneeded, I would argue, because that's how SJM wrote her. She wrote her to be kind of the underdog that everyone's second guessing. Why is she even in this book? Who is she? She's not doing anything. She's not helpful. Maybe to create this book where she's insanely epic and comes back and we all just eat our words, which she has done to us in the past with Reese.
Yeah.
So that's what makes her books the best, is you have all these thoughts in your head like, this person sucks, and then you come back and they're the best. They're your new favorite character. So
I mean, if we're also even gonna go down that rabbit hole, that's what I love just in general about books. Everyone reads the exact same words but can have different it affects them differently. They have different opinions on their thoughts and everything. So like even though up until now we've all read the exact same information on Elaine, you and I think that she's vanilla and boring, and like you said, like SJM has just kind of made her this underdog, but other people love her and they've seen that potential, and you maybe even identify with her, and they think that other people, you know what I mean? Like, so that's the cool thing I even just think about books in general, is like everyone's gonna have different opinions on what's been read and their thoughts on it. And that's why that's part of the reason why I think it's so fun to even just talk about theories, because it's like we don't know what's gonna happen next. All we know is what has happened. And even though something has happened, it also doesn't necessarily mean that Sarah couldn't write the next book with some kind of like loophole to explain why that it was written, but it actually like isn't what we thought, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It doesn't mean that she can't somehow change her mind down the road and still change it up on all of us. So I don't know. That's why I just think it's fun. Like, I love that everyone can have different opinions. I also love when everyone is respectful about their different opinions.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
But like how everyone can just have different opinions about the exact same stuff, and then also why I just like theorizing about how all of our different opinions on what has happened can influence what we think could or should or want to happen. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about how we think it's possible that Elaine is evil, or becomes evil, or has some kind of evil villain arc or something. Like we have a few different theories that we're going to talk over. All of this is stuff that we've found online from either various like Reddit posts, or different theories that have been like bounced around on Instagram, or honestly even just like a little bit of like our own opinions on some of these. But so like none of this is necessarily like us saying I think I came up with this all on my own, but it is fun to read about things and bring them to light. So
and add a couple of our opinions and possible theories to that. So nothing's exactly original, but also if you think anything is, I advise you to read the book Steal Like an Artist, because ain't nothing in this world that original.
That's so true.
All that to say, we will be giving credit where credit is due to the original authors, and then we will say, and also I think, and so you'll know that's the lame thought. You got to be up here.
That's the lame book club thought. Let's clarify. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be lame. It might
if
be.
It's from me, it might be lame. Okay, so do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
I think I like the one that you found more, and I want to get into that one a little bit more, so I'm going to go ahead and start if you are okay with that.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, cool. So, this is, I saw this on Instagram. Hold on, let me see. I should have had this pulled up. I can't remember the girl's handle that I originally saw it on. It is, Larita Reads is the one who originally posted this. And I really like, again, like I said, just like the idea of Elaine kind of having this. I know we've talked about Lucian having a villain arc. Honestly, it might still be my number one, just because like his villain arc revolves more around romance, whereas this one doesn't. And I'm just all for the romance. But this is a close second. But I haven't thought like compared the two too much, so that's just like if I'm just like at least quick game had to number the two, that's where I land right now.
Okay.
However, so it's possible that Elaine isn't necessarily inherently evil, but she might make some kind of mistake or lose herself for some time. So she's not necessarily evil the entire time, but like at some point we're unsure of where she kind of stands. She wouldn't be the only Sarah J. Maas character to do this. Like in Nesta and Elain, both in Heir of Fire, both of them were consumed by grief and or depression, and Elain at one point said, "Because I am lost and do not know the way." So other main characters that Sarah has written have had similar journeys. And this person's theory is that Elaine, out of grief for her lost humanity, might grow desperate enough to make some poor decisions that will trap her on the wrong side. We do know that, like, still, she, like, desperately wants that human side of her back. Even after the events in Akawar, Elaine still hasn't accepted her fate as High Fae. It's said that she tended to gardens, here being Valaris, silently mourning her lost human life and mourning Grayson. She is the sister who also lost the most by being turned Fae, and she still clings to the life that she lost. In A Court of Frost and Starlight, she even asked indirectly on how to change forms. She asked Amren, says, quote, "And once you were in this body, you couldn't change." And Amren said after a moment, "Are you asking out of curiosity for my past or for your own future?" Ooh. "There's no going back to being human, girl," Amren said, perhaps a tad gently. So...
Wait. Something's coming up in my brain. Somebody had the power to do something. Oh, well, shoot.
I'm about to jump into that, actually.
Oh, are you?
Potentially. I don't know if it's where you were going, but I am.
Okay.
Yes.
You talk about it. Gives me time to think about who it was.
So, and this begs the question of what if someone told her there was a way to become human again? Since we
that's the yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And we've already seen evidence of Elaine's longing to be turned human, like pitted against her. Also in Akawar, that's how Elaine was drawn out of the camp, was because she thought she saw Grayson standing on the edge of the camp calling to her, quote, promising her love and healing, and that's how Hybern drew her out. So who would have an incentive to do this to her again? Well, none other than Koschei. Is he whispering false hopes to Elaine? We have met one evil character who's known for making dodgy deals and manipulating people through, quote, whispers on the wind, all so that he could free himself from the lake. And this is also notably how he convinced the human queens to betray Vassa and sell her to him. And it says, and I quote, "But know that Briallen and the others sold me to him, not through their devices, but his, by words he planted in their courts, whispered on the winds." So what if Koschei starts whispering to Elaine that he can turn her human again? After all, he is a powerful sorcerer and has transformed other girls into birds. So he's proven that he has powers and can do transformations.
Yeah.
And it is likely that Elaine might give in to the temptation if she grows desperate enough. So the real question is, what would Elaine give him to become human again? And will Elaine be instrumental in defeating Koschei then if all of this happens? So even though Elaine might actually betray the Night Court for him, it's possible that then she would also get a redemption arc. She would realize her mistake, and she will struggle to overcome the hold that he has on her and eventually defeat him. Because in the end, it's possible that the Night Court can defeat Koschei without her, or it's not possible. It's possible that the Night Court can't defeat him without Elaine.
Without her, yeah.
And this is because there have been many connections between Elaine and Koschei already. She's had many visions of him during Akawar with her seeing ability. including one about an item that may be the key to defeating him. In Act 4, it says, and Elaine is saying, quote, "There is an onyx box that he possesses, more vital than anything save for them, the girls. He keeps other girls, others so like her, but she, by day, is in one form, by night, human again." So if Elaine becomes one of the girls, quote unquote, trapped by Koschei, her and Vassa then might even take him down together. So that's all I have on that. And I do like it. I like the idea of that. I think it would be a sweet, it'd be interesting to read about her becoming, like, not evil, but well, see, and I guess maybe this is why I like the theory we're gonna jump into that you found on Reddit more, because to me this isn't her becoming evil, it's her being tricked, and then just kind of like not like unknowingly just being deceived because she has this desire that she can't shake, and then eventually realizing like she's more powerful and overcoming it and stuff. I like that, but to me that would still be a relatively vanilla story for her, because
that does seem vanilla.
Kind of soft.
Yes. When you told me the whole thing, when you said, you know, she would betray someone in the inner or betray the inner circle and become human with whatever she exchanges Koschei, and then they realize they have to do this with her, and so she, you know, comes back and has redemption. I kind of was like, I don't know if I'd want to read that. Like, it just kind of hit me like, I just feel like that's a little bit cliche and maybe a little bit boring, and that's not Sarah. Sarah's not cliche or boring.
It might not be. It just, because I know what else we're about to talk about, like, the other concept to me sounds so much more exciting.
Yeah.
But again, that's just, I'm not saying this isn't, and I'm not saying that this can't happen, and honestly, it all depends on how Sarah writes it. This could very well be what happens, and she writes it in a way that I'm like, wow, I didn't expect this to be that thing, or I didn't expect her to give this up, and oh my gosh, I don't see how they could possibly come back from this. You know what I mean? Like, and I like the like girl power of her and to me, Vassa, whatever, is so random at this point. Like, she has to.
She is very random.
I know she's going to be brought back at some point, but like, I just don't understand the point of her character. So it'd be cool for her to also kind of get like more of a limelight and like time to shine and learn a little bit more, and so have the two of them kind of come back and defeat him in some way. But I don't know. I'm not like in love with this idea, because and ultimately I think the only reason is she isn't truly evil. She's just tricked. I want her. I think the idea of her like legitimately betraying them and becoming somehow not evil, but just, I don't know.
I want my mind to be blown. Like,
yes, and this wouldn't blow my mind. I
want my mind to be blown. Yes, exactly. Okay.
So that's that on that. But I like it. It's fun.
It's cute. It's a good one.
It is a good one. That's true.
Like, not in a bad way. Like, not like, oh, that's cute. But like, it's a cute story, and I would read it, and I would be appreciative, Sarah. But do I think you could do better? Yes.
Maybe.
And if that is the story you've already written and given to the publisher, I'm sorry, and I'll love it.
What I actually meant to say was, fantastic work. Love the direction.
10 out of 10. I think it's going to be great. Exactly. Okay. Are we ready for my first crazy theory?
Yes, I am.
Not mine. I'm going to attribute this one to L.A.M.E from Reddit. If you want to read more details about this, I'm just kind of going to give you kind of like the high-level overview, the quick synopsis, and Melissa will give her opinions to me, hopefully, so that this will make a little bit more sense, because I feel like I'm scrambled.
You don't have to ask me to give my opinions. That is a given.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the fact that Sarah loves classic retellings. We know this with ACOTAR. And I've even seen someone say that, it was maybe Crescent City kind of was similar to Frozen. Or did you hear that?
I heard Zootopia, but...
Zootopia, yes. And maybe it's not Crescent City, but one of the other books was like a soft retelling of Frozen, and I thought that was weird.
That. I heard that Throne of Glass was a soft retelling of Cinderella, but I honestly don't really get that very much.
I don't see that one.
a very, very, very loose retelling. But I do think that was her original intent when she was 16 and writing those books.
Sure.
But
regardless,
I have not heard the
Frozen one. Yeah. I'll have to report back with that one. But anyways, regardless, we definitely know that ACOTAR was based on Beauty and the Beast, which is enough evidence to tell you that Sarah does like a good retelling, as do I. Yes. So with that being said, and with the evidence of Sarah at one point pinning certain pictures on her Pinterest having to do with this theory, are Elaine and Azriel's story possibly going to end up being the retelling of Persephone and Hades? And so Persephone was a Greek goddess of spring, and she eventually became the queen of the underworld because she fell in love with Hades, who is the king of the underworld. Parentheses, listen to Hades Town if you haven't. It's essentially the entire story of Orpheus, Persephone, Hades. It's so good, and the music slaps. But that's for another time. So we have to assume that for this theory to work, that when Elaine and Nesta came out of the cauldron, we have to look at Nesta, which we know her power is death and destruction. And so possibly could Elaine's powers end up being more than just seeing, but also being life and creation. So this would mimic the gifts that Persephone had. And we already know, she loves to garden. She's a gentle spirit. She loves making bread. She's a creative. We'll give her that. Azriel. He seems like he's connected to hell in one way or another. There are a lot of theories on that, and that is a whole episode on itself. So all I'm just going to say is he's got ice cold hands. He has a voice like cold death. He has a very dark backstory. He is a shadow daddy. Hate saying that out loud. The works. So there's speculation that he could be the 8th prince of hell. Elaine is lately always in a dreamlike state, just off in her own world, seeing things. When Bryce and Hunt from Crescent City talk to Apollyon, they meet him in a dreamlike world. And so that asks the question, is Elaine already making contact with hell? The Asteries' true, one goal is that they want to enter the ACOTAR world eventually once more to exact revenge. And so this could break off into a huge story of the one person that's able to save them. If we find out that Az ends up going to be a prince of hell, or that he is, and maybe he goes to hell to help aid, and Elaine and Az fall in love, Elaine might show up and find out herself that she has all this crazy power, similar to how Persephone took over as queen of the underworld. Elaine would eventually take over as queen of the underworld, bring up all of hell's armies, and take out the Asteri, which would be the big foe in the next ACOTAR book. Now that would, one, have to bring the Asteri back into the picture, which is not out of the question, I guess, because the Daglan were there. If we're going to say that all these worlds are different, the Daglan were there at one point. So that there could be some elsewhere. And if we're going to assume that there's other theories on theories on theories, but the Daglan, the Asteri, the Vaug, they could all be the same thing. So we know they have their own world. They could show up again, and that could be the boss fight where Elaine rises up as the queen of the underworld. And in that, it would be insane to just picture thousands upon thousands of hell's warriors and creatures and armies all bowing down to their queen. And here we are in a court of war and ruin. Elaine sucks. She does nothing. And then we have ACOTAR 5 where this entire army of hell is bowing to her. Something to think about.
My words.
Yeah. So like I said, that one's kind of rough for me, but if you check out Emmy Ego's theory on Reddit, she explains it a little bit clearer with visual aid as well, which is very helpful. But essentially, Az being the Prince of Hell would bring Elaine with him, and then she would find her place and power and end up ruling and be this incredible badass that we all think she could be. So, your thoughts?
I think also, yes, love this. I also think the reason at the very least, not only like this more, I feel like maybe this one even is slightly more likely, is because now that we've had crossover in House of Flame and Shadow, I can't see a world where there's not some more crossover in all the rest of her books. And it says this on that same Reddit thread too. I didn't know this before reading this. Apparently, Sarah has said that regardless of any crossover, she wants to make all of her series still being able to be understood as a standalone. So, like, you don't have to read all the other ones. But I feel like that doesn't necessarily mean that she isn't going to do more crossover either. I also just think that means that we're going to get extra information that you would already maybe know if you had read the other books. But then if you haven't, it at least is going to provide context for what you're reading.
That is such a good point, and that is a tricky line to tote because that makes so much sense. If I was just reading ACOTAR and I didn't have time to finish these massive Crescent City books, that would suck to be like, well, because I didn't read those, now I can't enjoy ACOTAR 5. It makes sense that she would want, and that makes sense too, why in House of Flame and Shadow, we were kind of frustrated, like, oh, it's only Nesta and Azriel, but that would make sense that she uses two characters that kind of stayed more silent on Bryce's journey to let Bryce figure things out. We didn't get a lot of plot development because it wasn't an ACOTAR book.
It wasn't their
book.
That
one makes exactly. Yeah,
they were.
Yeah, I like that actually.
Even
it makes
though,
sense.
in my opinion, Nesta was
now
the
I've
star
read
of
them
the
all,
show.
so I'd like them more if they were all like, oh, that's a whole story in itself. But yeah,
but like, even though in my opinion, Nesta was still like one of the best parts, if not the best part of House of Flame and Shadow. Like, you're right. It wasn't about her. It was about Bryce, and it was about Nesta and Azriel guiding Bryce, and you know what I mean. And like, even though they weren't like doing it on purpose, but they were helping her along the way and like helping her figure out her own journey. But and like however, because we've read all the ACOTAR books, that moment that Nesta had with Ember. Her Bryce's mom was so impactful because we know she has mommy issues. So like, it was almost healing and cathartic for us to read that. However, it's cute if you haven't read that, and it's not going to be as impactful for you, but it's not going to be like, what gives? Like, why is she, you know what I mean? Like, no one's because they also did just spend time together. So she writes these books in such a way, like, it makes so much sense if you have zero context, because she gives you just enough to understand. But if you've read all of them, then it's like, like,
you know what I think would be fun too, just a little tangent. If you read Crescent City first, which I think has maybe never happened in the history of time. If you are one of those people, stand up, because I need to know who you are. If you read Crescent City first, and then at the end of House of Sky and Breath, is that what it's called? Where Rhysand comes and talks to Bryce. He says, "Hi, Bryce, I'm Rhysand." And then everybody like threw their book through the wall because we're all freaking out. But if you didn't know who Rhysand was, and then you went into House of Flame and Shadow, and Rhys is painted as this kind of dark character, just like a bad guy who everyone's scared of, like, oh, he's coming, you better hurry up and get out of here. And then you went to ACOTAR and got that backstory. I think I would love that reveal of who he actually is.
That's so true. Well, because then here's the thing. Actually, what I even love about that, and I'm sure this was intentional, but if it wasn't, it's how lucky is she? So you read Crescent City, you think Rhys is, you're like kind of unsure because Nesta and Azriel end up being good and they respect Rhys, but you only get a very little bit of Rhys, and he seems like you aren't totally sure where he stands. And then you read ACOTAR, and he is absolutely the villain. Or painted to be look like the villain in the
didn't even think about that either. Yeah.
Then it's like, oh shoot. But then
that's a double twist for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ooh. Maybe if someone asked me like, oh, what book should I read? I'll start but I don't know if they would get through the first Crescent City right off the bat without having the hope in Sarah that we all had. Anyways, all right, let's move on to the third and final theory that I think is going to blow everyone's mind, including my own, when I read it again. This theory inspired the entire episode because we just lost our marbles. We were planning on doing something else this week, and once we got this comment from one of our followers, we were like, everything's shifting. We need to talk about this immediately. So I will name her. This comes from, her name on Instagram is Sea Hopeful. And it caused us to do some really deep digging. She said, I think Elaine might be the villain. And I literally said, and I quote, "That's a hard sell, but go ahead. What do you got?" And she gave me some bullets, and I was like,
sold hard.
Actually, I think everything's just changed. So hopefully it will for you too. Let's start here. Elaine might be Valg. Let's get into it. So let's flash back first to Throne of Glass and take a look at Maeve, who we all know is the queen of the Valgs. Mm-hmm. Maeve was Valg, obviously. She was able to manipulate minds. She was able to make everyone believe that she was, because she manipulated minds, she was able to make everybody believe that she was the third sister of the Fae Queens, Mora and Mab. Maeve faked a mating bond between Rowan and Lydia. She has the gifts of being a seer. And to me, I was like, does she though? So I went back and read, and yes, she saw a glimmer of the future when Mala's heir would be born, which she saw who Elain was, and she saw who Aelin's mate would be, which was why she was able to manipulate that. Maeve, being Valg, also hates fire because that's like the one thing that can destroy the Valg. So now let's look at Elaine. So she's one of three sisters, just like Maeve pretended to be. So that's point one. Point two, she's also a seer. Is there a reason that she wants so badly to reject the mating bond besides the fact that she might get the ick from Lucian? Could it be that he has fire in his veins and she wants nothing to do with that? And lastly, Nesta and Elaine have been joined at the hip for their entire lives. We all know how Nesta is, very self-loathing, hateful, and depressed, which is a result that is often found in those who spend much time around Valgs. Now we notice that in a court of silver flames, Nesta starts to heal. She's discovering herself. She goes through a beautiful journey, but we have to take notice of the fact that there is one person who was not close to Nesta during this entire book, and that is Elaine. She wasn't even in the same house, right?
Elaine's hardly even mentioned.
She's gone.
In Silver Flames.
And Nesta found her healing.
She's around, but she's not present.
But not close
often.
proximity, right.
Yeah. And when she is, it's awkward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I would love for that. I think that is my favorite part of this series because I would love, again, Sarah just writes things to where you're like, oh, yeah, Elaine doesn't know how to comfort her. Nesta just needs to do this by herself. Like, that's a totally logical and accepted thought, but I'd love for there to actually be even a deeper meaning to the fact that, like, no, Nesta had to be away from Elaine in order to heal because
it could let in a draft.
Thank you. It could let in a child. Thank you. But yeah, so that is like borderline like goosebumps, like when I read it for the first time. Like, I love didn't even pick up once on that.
No, not
it
once.
Seems so normal, but now I'm like, could there be? And I mean, maybe there's nothing to any of this. Like, who's to say? Sarah is to say, but maybe there's nothing to it. I just think it's so fun. Like, to me, all three of these are like very real possibilities.
Yeah, and they're fun.
Like, what could happen?
Also,
100%.
So I have a couple things. Number one, I brought up a few weeks ago the possibility that Elaine had been glamoring herself the entire time because everybody who has, even when she was human, quote unquote, everybody who has met her has just been like, you're so beautiful, you're so lovely, we all love you, Elaine's the best. And that's exactly what a glamour does, is creates an appearance and a personality that everybody's just drawn to you, which is what Elaine is,
if you will.
Yeah, a glamour. And so this Valg theory is so in line with that. And I think that's incredible, the writing, number one. But number two, I have read in a couple places now, and I might stir some people up for this, but I've read that Valg are not all bad. And I think that theory comes from the idea of when Dorian and Maeve are talking. Maeve talks about humans and how she says, some are good and some are bad, but you have souls that can change. Or like, you can't change your physical form, but your souls can change. Valg are essentially the same, but opposite, where their souls can't change, but they can change their physical form. And I think she said something along the lines of like, not all of them are bad. And so then that causes the question, is Elaine bad, or is she just like a misunderstood Valg that wants to lay low and not cause problems? And that's why she's so out of the picture and doesn't want anyone to, I'm just going to garden. I want no conflict. I just want my life. And maybe that's why she's so depressed, or like, now this is my own theory, so I'm kind of spitballing, but maybe that's why she's so depressed of becoming Fae, because now she's around more Fae and she didn't want to be found out, and she wants to stay human, and now she has to put on this appearance. And maybe when she gave to the cauldron, it took some of her Valgy powers. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I think, and just like how Maeve, like, was so enamored. I mean, granted, it was more Fae. It wasn't, like, necessarily human. But in the same way that Maeve liked that body she took on, she stayed in this world for so long. She wanted this to be her world. That's how hard Elaine was fighting to keep her. Like, I guess if she was never really human to begin with, but the quote-unquote humanity she desperately wants that. Like, she just wants to stay. Yeah. She wants that. She was clinging to that, and it got ripped from her, and she's so upset. And that's how like, fiercely Maeve fought to keep her place in this world and fought to keep Erewhon out, because she's like, no, like, I found this place, I want to stay here, I want to rule, like, I want this to be my. I mean, I do think Maeve was inherently evil, but you're right, like, the fact that, like, what she said is how not potentially, like, not all of them are, like, whatever their soul is, they can't change that. So if they're good, they're good. Like, so.
Now that's a hard sell, because obviously we met, like, the Valg princes and Maeve, all incredibly evil. Erewhon, all of them, and then all their little henchmen that were coming in and possessing, like, all the other people, evil. I don't think I've ever met a good Valg. Elaine might be our first, but it's a hard sell to be like, some Valg could be good, but that's just a hot take.
It is, but I also want to throw in another. Okay. I do think it's a hard sell. Do I think it's like, I don't know who's to say if it's gonna happen or not, but if that ends up being the case, that also, I want to loop back in the theory that we talked about a few weeks. I don't remember when we talked about this at some point. Of Amryn possibly being Valg, also.
Yeah.
Because I would say she would be an inherently good one at that point.
That's true. Like, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
I have nothing else to back that up other than the fact that we talked about it at one point, and, like, maybe it would kind of, if that ends up being true, it could, like, be proof for Elaine also being one. But it also, I think that would have, we talked about her being Asteri, not necessarily Valg, but that I am firmly in the camp of believing that the Valg and Daglin and Asteri are all three different names for the exact same, like, species. And so to me, like, they absolutely are all the same. It's just the three different books, three different, like, worlds and or timelines. Also, just want to throw that out there. When we talked about timelines, it was just a fun little silly talk. Doesn't necessarily, obviously, like, it could not be true. Everyone keeps saying that Sarah has said that they are, like, for sure different worlds, but no one has ever been able to cite the source, and I'm wondering at this point if everyone just, like, sees other people saying that, so they're like, well, Sarah said.
Even the sources that they cite are not Sarah saying that. And so we're like, what are you seeing? And also when they're like, oh, but Aelin fell through the worlds. Okay, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't say she fell through different worlds. And even if it does, Aelin fell through what she thought were different worlds. Yeah. She doesn't know these are different timelines. Anyways, that's a topic for another fight. Let's just...
Like, at the end of the day...
It's all just fun, people. Just have some fun. Just live a little, I think.
At the end of the day, after talking it through on that episode and thinking about it and everything, I think I do land more in the camp of them being different worlds on the same timeline. But I do too, actually. But I still had fun talking about it. Exactly. And, like, that doesn't mean I still want Valaris and Terrasen to have been the same place. Like, that would have been so epic. But if that's not, it's just a fun little silly conversation. Like, at the end of the day, if it's not.
Also, it's just fiction, and it's just fun, and these are just books. Yeah. And be nice. And says I. And that's it. Says I. Anyways.
Cool. Well, that unless you have anything else you want to add, that's all we
No.
have about. I guess Elaine being evil maybe wasn't necessarily the. I think I still want to title that episode because Elaine and evil, like, the words go together better. But maybe that isn't, like, the best way to frame it. More of just, like, either Elaine's potential betrayal or Elaine's character arc, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
But all that to say is I am here for it. I do think we're going to get more of
Absolutely.
Elaine regardless in the next book, whether it's kind of like how Silver Flames was, where it was for sure Nesta's book, and then we just got a lot of Cassian. It'll be Elaine's book. We get a lot of Azriel and Lucian and or Tamlin or like whatever ends up happening. I don't know if that. I feel like that would be the case just because that's up at the first three were Feyre's books with other people. Then it was Nesta with other people. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's kind of how it has to be. And I'm just excited to hopefully not think that Elaine is vanilla. Like, that's just, I want to love her. I do so badly. But, like, outside of my theories, I don't yet. But there's hope. And that, because that's how I feel about Azriel.
It's coming. I think it's going to be an epic twist, and I'm really excited to read it.
Yep. I like the idea of Azriel. I just don't feel like personally I've gotten enough of him because I've gotten way more of Rhys and Cassian and like who they are and stuff. And I want to love him so much, but I just don't have enough. So I'm excited for this next book. I think we're going to get so much more context and backstory and information on all these characters that we've been introduced to. Potentially some more characters. Hopefully some crossover, but like humbly, if I can say, better than the way that was in Flame and Shadow. So that is another conversation as well. We've already had it, but I'm just excited, and I think that's good. So follow us on Instagram at Lame Book Club Pod. I'm pretty sure that's our handle for like every social media, so find us and follow us everywhere. If you listen on Spotify, thanks so much, but also leave us a written review on Apple Podcasts if you would be so kind, and subscribe on YouTube.
Yep, that's all the platforms, and thanks for being here.
Yeah.
See you on Wednesday.
See
Bye.
you on Wednesday.